Hey runners, how's it going? Hey, are you frustrated with your run training? Do you kind of feel stuck that you're in the same spot and you're not improving? Well, stay tuned because I wanted to introduce you to kind of a different approach called mastery. So stay tuned and I'll explain what it is and how what you're doing now is causing you problems and how this relates to Maffetone training in what I call the 4 stages of MAF. Welcome to the Forever Runner podcast. I'm Herb the Forever Runner, your host, and I'm a heart attack survivor, ultra runner, and a longevity coach for runners over 50. Listen in each week as we discover how mastering your running will extend your active lifestyle as you get older. To learn more about this, head to my website foreverrunner.com and you can pick up my free quick start cheat sheet there. But let's go on with the episode. So when I first started Maffetone training, I immediately got very frustrated. I was having all sorts of problems trying to keep my heart rate down. I was running really slow. I was trying to do all the right things, and I wasn't seeing any improvement. Even after several weeks, I felt like I hit a plateau and I was ready to quit. But fortunately, I was reading this book. It was called Masters, The Key to Success and Long-Term Fulfillment by George Leonard. The author has practiced and taught martial arts since the 70s and had a unique perspective on reaching your athletic goals. And I want to read a quote from here. Goals and contingencies are important, but they exist in the future and in the past, beyond the pale of the sensory realm. Practice, the path of mastery, exists only in the present. You can see it, hear it, smell it, feel it. To love the plateau is to love the internal now, to enjoy the inevitable spurts of progress and the fruits of accomplishment, then serenely to accept the new plateau that waits just beyond them. To love the plateau is to love what is most essential and enduring in your life. Whoa! That really changed my perspective because in run training, it's very common to hit a plateau where no matter what you do, you're not improving. And I ran into this, and I and I found that after a while, all of a sudden, I progressed, and for like no apparent reason, but I'd be up at another level. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. But here's the problem that you're facing is for most run training that you're exposed to, you've got these short-term goals. And I mean, these are good, but the thing is, maybe you manage to get a certain time in a 5K or a marathon or something. So you build up and you peak, and then you drop down. Well, what's next? So now you got to scramble and come up with another goal so you have something again to build from and reach that little pinnacle again. And then once you've accomplished that, what's next? Yeah, you got to come up with something else. So you're on this constant peaks and valleys, and if you don't meet the peak that you were planning for, you get all disappointed. If you're not building up to that in some sort of fashion, you're getting frustrated because you're not seeing progress. And I can understand why people can get frustrated, end up doing the wrong kind of training, getting injured, getting hurt so they can't do what they want to do, or they just get frustrated and bag the whole thing. So it's kind of not your fault. We're taught that you need these quick quick wins. And, the internet is flooded with all these great hacks and tricks for you to run faster, to run longer, to run stronger. And, you just try these things and see if they work. And if they don't, then you try something else. But you can end up not being on a steady path, and you're just doing these peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys. So what I want to do is show you how taking the mastery approach can work for your run training, specifically if you're doing low heart training or Maffetone style training. So over the years, I've come up with 4 stages of Maffetone training. And if you've tried low heart training or tried to use the Maffetone formula and you're an older runner, I'm sure you're going to relate some of these. So first of all, if you're over 50, we're talking about running at a heart rate at, let's say, 120 beats per minute to 125 beats per minute. So if you haven't tried that before, go out and give that a go and see how it goes for you. But for a lot of people, they come in at level 1, which is, gee, this is hard. So at level 1, you just, even on flat ground, you can't run for a sustained amount of time at that low heart rate without your heart rate bumping up and exceeding that, which if you're following standard Maffetone training means you have to stop and walk until your heart rate goes down and then start running again to bring it to that calculated level. So this is hard and it's frustrating. You're out there doing these run walks and you're being guided by your heart rate on your watch as to how far you can actually run and then how long you have to walk before you can run again. And it's a tough thing to do. You can do that for quite an amount of time before it gets easier to run at that slow pace and your intervals of having to walk start to shrink down or go away. So this is what I would determine as the first plateau that you reach in Maffetone training, especially when you're just starting out. That's where you're just having to run walk and it just seems to take forever before you can get out of that. But if you're successful, if you stick at it, then you go to the next level. And the next level is, gee, this is hard. So now you can actually run continuously at that calculated low heart rate without having to stop and walk, but you're constantly redlining the whole time. So you have to keep an eye on it. And if you come to any hills or inclines, you're probably going to have to slow down or walk just to get the heart rate back down. So the good thing is you're doing the work, but as I said, you're at this plateau where you're just fighting that heart rate red line. You're running right at that red line, and it's difficult. But if you persevere and keep at it, you'll bump up to the next stage, which is what I call the sweet spot. So in the sweet spot stage, now you can comfortably run 5 to 10 beats below your calculated MAF training heart rate. And so when you're running, let's say even on level ground, you're just not having to pay attention to it because you're naturally way down below your top red line. And you can do those undulations in some of the hills and still stay below that magic heart rate. And this is really where most of us want to end up. It's where you're going out and running comfortably without having to worry so much about how hard you're going because you're just used to it. And this is another plateau that you're operating at. And to get to the next level is more difficult for us older people, but it can be very common with runners in their 30s and even 40s. And that's the next level of MAF training, which I call holy moly. That's when running at your calculated MAF heart rate is actually too hard and you can't sustain it for a long period of time. Just to give you some context, let's say your Maffetone training heart rate is probably about 20 seconds slower per mile than what your marathon pace would be. But if you're a younger runner and you do this very successfully, you can end up with your pace at Maffetone is higher than what your marathon race pace is. So that's where it's holy moly, that's too hard. But it's a good thing because now you're way below that threshold for building aerobic capacity, and you have a lot more flexibility in your training. So just to summarize this a little bit, if you follow conventional wisdom, going through the different stages of Maffetone style training, it can be very, very difficult because on a day-to-day basis or even a week-to-week basis, you're likely not to see improvement. So the whole idea is to change your perspective, change your focus on not some goal of, I want to be running at this pace, I need to be at this heart rate, but rather to just enjoy the process that you're going through, enjoy the practice, put in the work, just go out and enjoy your runs. And what you'll find, and this is what happened to me, is just out of the blue, all of a sudden I was running faster. Or all of a sudden I dropped another 5 pounds, just out of the blue. But if you take the mindset of doing the practice and showing up and doing the work and just kind of put the goals aside for those normal achievements that you would in a training plan, you'll have more success. So your key to success for your run training is to embrace the process. Enjoy each run and where you are right now. Your next plateau will happen. See you in the next episode.